Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. Make sure to like this video. Go follow us on Twitter at Gridiron Expert. Check out our official website, thegridironexpert.com, where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter and also sign up for those expert picks. And make sure to use our promo code GRIDIRON over on BetNow, where you will receive a 50% sign-up bonus. The links for all of those things are in the description below, so do not miss out on any of this extra college football content. Our second game of the week takes us down to the Plains for the Deep South's oldest rivalry, as number 4 Georgia takes on number 12 Auburn in the 124th meeting between these two historic programs. And it is a huge, huge game taking place Saturday afternoon at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Major game for Georgia because a win here would clinch the SEC East for the Bulldogs and keep their college football playoff hopes alive. A major game for Auburn to not only clinch a win over a hated rival, but also the opportunity to get a win over a top 4 team and then maybe have a chance to do it again 2 weeks later in the Iron Bowl against Alabama. Auburn more than likely out of the college football playoff race, definitely out of the SEC title race, but closing the season with a 10-2 record with 2 wins over top 6 opponents would nonetheless put Auburn in a New Year's Six bowl game and end a fantastic season for Gus Malzahn and the Tigers. So in this game of the week, we of course are going to break down the offensive and defensive sides of the ball. We're going to break down the keys for the game and share who we think will win this crucial SEC matchup in a rivalry game where of course we throw records out the window. But let's start with a little bit of history, and recent history at that, as Auburn has lost 5 of the past 6 games to Georgia. 5 of the past 6 they have lost to the Bulldogs. The only win coming back in 2017, where the Tigers annihilated Georgia 40-17 right here at Jordan-Hare Stadium. But of course, as we all know, Georgia got the revenge in the game that mattered the most, the SEC championship game, which sent Auburn to the Peach Bowl and sent Georgia to the college football playoff, where they later made the national championship game. It should be noted, though, that Auburn has won 3 of the past 5 games played at home. So they do a little bit better against Georgia when they've got that home field advantage. But as of late, whether it's at Jordan-Hare Stadium, whether it's played in Athens, the last 3 games, 2 of which have been won by Georgia, have been decided by an average of 20.3 points per game. So blowouts either by Georgia or blowouts either by Auburn. And I'm sure both Georgia and Auburn this Saturday would love to get a blowout of themselves, but I think we all know that's not going to be the case. Vegas doesn't think it will be the case, and we don't either. We expect a close one down on the Plains. So let's start with the offensive side of the ball, and we'll start with Georgia, giving the road team the first bit of talk here. Georgia's averaging 33.7 points per game, and that's a phenomenal mark. And I think for Georgia's offense, they are kind of getting overshadowed by how well their defense has played, and also because of the recent offensive struggles, getting criticized for the conservative play calls. You go all the way back to that South Carolina loss they had a few weeks ago, and then they struggled offensively against Kentucky. They bounced back with a great day from Jake Fromm against Florida, and then had a solid day last week shutting out Missouri. So 33.7 points per game, and one of the more balanced offenses in the entire country. 232.6 passing yards per game from Jake Fromm, and 215.9 rushing yards per game. Of course, the Bulldogs led by DeAndre Swift, averaging 6.3 yards per carry this season. So the Bulldogs are extremely, extremely balanced, which will be a very difficult test for a solid Auburn defense. You know, if you take away the run game for Georgia, they've still got that passing game with one of the more experienced quarterbacks in the country. And if you shut down Jake Fromm, they've got a very solid run game and a solid 1-2 punch at running back as well. So Auburn's going to have their hands full defensively in this game. And we mentioned Jake Fromm in a game like this, a junior quarterback for Georgia who is no stranger to big-time games, is no stranger to facing off against Gus Malzahn and the Tigers. He has 13 touchdowns and just 3 interceptions this season. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, He's one of the best quarterbacks in the entire nation. He's experienced, he's poised, he's efficient with the football. I don't know if you can say the same yet for Bo Nix at Auburn. The true freshman quarterback for Auburn has played well, but has not played great. And he has struggled against elite teams with above average defenses, struggling against Oregon, a game that Auburn did win, but he did not have a great game. And then, of course, struggling against Florida and LSU, the lone losses for Auburn this season. He's going up against one of the better defenses in the entire country in Georgia, something we'll address here in a second. But despite the, mediocre play of Bo Nix, Auburn's still averaging 32.7 points per game. And you may ask yourself, why and how is that possible? And that's because Auburn, and Georgia for that matter, both rely heavily on their run game. We mentioned Georgia averages 216 rushing yards per game. Auburn's a little bit better, averaging 219.3 rushing yards per game, led by their leading rusher right now, Jatarvius Whitlow, although he should be back from an injury in this game. He was hurt. Don't know if he'll be back. Still battling a little bit of an injury. We expect him to be back, but if not, Auburn will still remain fine at the running back position. But it's been the focus for Auburn all season long to take that edge off of a true freshman quarterback who, once again, has just been mediocre so far. Auburn is winning games against these teams by pounding the rock. And that's great when they're going up against teams like Arkansas and Ole Miss and Mississippi State. But it's not great when you're going up against Georgia, one of the best defenses in the entire country, allowing just 10.1 points per game, a team that has not allowed a rushing touchdown all season long. Let that sink in. Georgia has not allowed a rushing touchdown in any capacity all season long. I think a lot of people kind of wrote Georgia off a few weeks ago after that loss to South Carolina. That was a horrible, horrible loss. But they're still playing like one of the top 4 teams in the country. No rushing touchdowns allowed, the only FBS team to do that, and allowing just 74.6 rushing yards per game. Auburn is averaging 219.3. Something's got to give on Saturday afternoon. Either Georgia's defense is finally going to crack, or Auburn is going to have their running game shut down once again by Georgia. That is the biggest storyline to watch in this game, and something we will address in our keys to the game as well. For Auburn, their defense is not bad by any means. 17.4 points per game allowed, not bad in the rugged SEC West, and not bad when they have faced off against some elite opponents, as we mentioned, like Oregon and Florida and LSU. They allow 221.4 passing yards per game and 112.7 rushing yards per game. So neither of those bad marks, although the 221 passing yards per game is something to be a cause of concern and something you think Georgia would be able to recognize and try to exploit and try to get Jake Fromm going a little bit. They've been criticized lately for the conservative play calls coming from Kirby Smart and his staff. Hopefully they don't go conservative, because you certainly can't play like that on the road against a good top 15 rival in your conference. Cannot happen. But we mentioned Georgia. The biggest storyline we want to watch is, can their rushing defense stop down Auburn's rushing game? The biggest storyline I want to see from Auburn on their defense is their dominant defensive line, some who consider to be the best in the entire country. How will they fare against Georgia's offensive line, who many consider to be the best in the entire country? And I know Georgia has been facing and has battled some injuries along the offensive line, although Kirby Smart has come out and said that none of them seem to be too serious and they should be good to go for this Saturday. So will Auburn be able to break through that dominant offensive line and create some pressure on Jake Fromm, or be able to stack the box and prevent DeAndre Swift from getting the run game going? Or will Georgia's offensive line hold firm, much like they did against Florida, giving Jake Fromm all day in the pocket to throw, making throw after throw after throw, converting third down after third down after third down, and making it a very, very long day for this Auburn defense? It's going to be a very interesting storyline. 2 things to watch out for in a game like this. And both things that we want to address in our keys for the game. We'll start with Auburn, giving it to the home team this time. Auburn's first key to the game is, you guessed it, pressure Jake Fromm. You've got to disrupt him in the pocket. And for those of you that don't believe that, go back and watch the film from the Florida game just a few weeks ago when Georgia faced off against the Gators and won down in Jacksonville. The Bulldogs converted 12 of their 18 third downs in that game, and a lot of those came through the air because Jake Fromm had all day in the pocket to find an open receiver. You know, the secondary, the cornerbacks, the safeties, they can only cover their man for so long before eventually they're going to get open. And that's exactly what happened against Florida. They have a solid secondary, but their pass rush that had been so dominant all season long against everybody else just was non-existent against Georgia because of their dominant offensive line. So Auburn, who has one of the better defensive lines, has to pressure Jake Fromm because he's efficient, he's poised in the pocket. But he's not those things when he's under pressure. And that showed against a team like South Carolina, who was able to get pressure on Jake Fromm, who was able to rattle him, and who was able to force turnovers, 3 to be exact, from the quarterback back in Athens. So Auburn, pressure Jake Fromm. You rattle him early, you rattle him often, you make him uncomfortable, you have a very solid chance to win this game. Secondly, biggest thing for Auburn offensively is to utilize Bo Nix's passing. Because I'll be honest with you, I do not see Auburn having much success on the ground against this Georgia rushing defense. Which means Auburn, to win, is going to have to win through the air, or they're going to have to win with Bo Nix running, with Bo Nix scrambling. Utilize Bo Nix in the passing game. He can't beat you deep. Plain and simple, he can't. So Auburn's offensive game plan has to be relying on yards after the catch. Relying on yards after the catch, utilizing the speed that they have to get these receivers into the open field, to make Georgia make some open field tackles. Maybe they miss here and there, and Auburn's able to get some big-time yards on some shorter passes from Bo Nix, who, once again, not played bad this year, but has not been one of the better quarterbacks in the entire SEC. It's just a matter of fact. So Auburn has to be able to utilize him and try to get Georgia to maybe creep up on some shorter passes, and then maybe that's when you can take a shot deep. So Bo Nix making life easy on him, at least early on in this game. For Georgia, their key, do not be conservative in play calling. You cannot be conservative in a game like this. Play smart, yes. Yes, play smart. But don't be conservative. If Auburn is struggling to stop your passing game, and I think that's something that they will struggle with, at least at first, then keep throwing the ball. Don't stop. If Auburn's doing a great job shutting down your run, but they can't stop the pass, much like Florida was unable to do, don't stop throwing. Keep doing what is working. I get you guys switched up a little bit. I'm not saying be predictable, but don't be conservative. Secondly, Georgia defensively needs to take away the middle of the field for Bo Nix. Once again, go back and watch that Georgia-Florida game. Florida did a phenomenal job utilizing their tight ends, utilizing their receivers right across the middle of the field on some slant routes, on some post routes, creating big yards for Florida. Now, the Georgia defense stood tall as they crept closer to the end zone, but nonetheless, they were able to move the ball fairly well by utilizing the middle of the field. So take that away from Bo Nix and make him try to beat you vertically. Make him try to beat you deep, because I can promise you he's not going to be able to do that. He hasn't proven that to me yet. He hasn't done that against Oregon. He didn't do that against Florida. He didn't do that against LSU. And once again, it's great that you can put up big numbers against some weaker SEC opponents, some weaker out-of-conference opponents. But Georgia is not any of those things. They are one of the best teams in the country, one of the best teams in the SEC. So Georgia needs to force Bo Nix to take shots deep, to go deeper, to beat you vertically. If you're not, could be a long day for Georgia defensively, much like we mentioned earlier for Auburn. So what's going to happen in this big-time rivalry game? Well, simply put, it's going to come down to quarterback play. Both teams, as we mentioned, are extremely run-heavy. They are extremely run-heavy. They dominate these games on the ground, and teams haven't figured out how to stop their run game, so once again, why quit what is working? But one of these teams' run games is going to get shut down, and I'd like to put my money on that it will be Auburn's, because they're going up against one of the best rushing defenses in the entire country. I don't expect Georgia to have a big day on the ground either, but I expect them to have a better day on the ground, which will allow Georgia to be a little more balanced, a little more unpredictable on offense than Auburn will be. And if it comes down to quarterback play, Jake Fromm absolutely owns the edge. While he is on the road and while Jordan-Hare Stadium is going to be rocking this Saturday afternoon, while it's going to be a very tough place to play, Fromm's been there before. 2 years ago, his first start at Auburn, of course a 40-17 loss. He's been in bigger games than this. He played in the national championship. He's played in SEC championships. He's got the poise, he's got the efficiency, he's got the experience to win a game like this. And I've got more faith in Jake Fromm to win a game through the air than I do from Bo Nix, who has struggled once again against better defenses this season. I also have more faith in Georgia, like I mentioned, to get better production on the ground. Not as much as they have in recent games, but it's a little bit more than what I expect Auburn to get in a game like this. So Georgia, from an experience standpoint and from obviously owning the quarterback edge, wins this game not on the ground, but through the air. Expected to be a low-scoring game on the Plains, but Georgia wins this game to remain as a one-loss team, to clinch the SEC East, and remain college football playoff contenders. It's a huge one Saturday afternoon. You don't want to miss it. But Georgia Bulldogs and Kirby Smart take down Gus Malzahn the Tigers to give them their third loss in the season and might put Gus Malzahn on the hot seat if he can't beat Alabama in the Iron Bowl in the season finale. So guys, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Make sure to go follow us on Twitter at Gridiron Expert. Check out the official website, thegridironexpert.com. Sign up for that weekly newsletter. Sign up for those expert picks. And use that promo code GRIDIRON on BetNow to receive that 50% sign-up bonus. The links for all those things are in the description below, so do not miss out on any of it. And once again, thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.